What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. Casino, how you doing today?
Holding in there, holding on for dear
Yeah.
life. Yeah. How about you?
You and me both. Madden got released last night, so I was up till way too late playing it, even though I knew I had to wake up at 7 to take my son to school, and then I did not have a time to take a nap today, so I am very tired. But
Sounds nice.
yeah, it's you got to do it. You got to do it. How about you, Casino? Baby number 2 on the way.
Pretty much. Yeah, so the wife has to go in for monitoring. Everybody's fine. The baby's fine, she's fine. Just a certain thing that she has to be monitored before he gets here. So we're just waiting for that to be all set up so she can go vacay in the hospital for about a month before just be monitored, make sure things are smooth. Yeah, so that's gonna be fun. So it's just gonna be me and the kid. A lot of driving. I'm gonna feel like you. A lot of driving kids around.
Yeah.
So
Joining the Deuce Club, the Kid
yeah,
Deuce Club. It's a great club to be in. Great
can't
club to
wait.
be in.
Can't wait.
But as far as sports goes, we've had actually a pretty damn eventful we recorded on Friday, so we've had a pretty damn eventful 4 days. We had Now this is a thing where I was like, wait a second, when I was looking up the scores of the preseason over the weekend, did you know they're still saying there's 4 weeks to the preseason and just the Hall of Fame game is week 1? So they're calling that week 1, and then the one we just saw had week 3, because I was like, week 3? What are we talking about? But then I looked it up and they have it written out as week 1, just Hall of Fame
Stupid.
game. And
I
then
don't get that. Come on now. What are
it's
we doing? What
dumb.
are we even doing here? What are we doing here?
But yeah, so apparently we just finished week 3 of the preseason, or no.
We don't fucking
Maybe
know.
I don't know how they're doing it. Yeah, so we just finished week 2 of the preseason, even though it was the first time all these teams played. And then the second or the third week, it's dumb. But so we'll talk about that. We're talking about the NFC North today when we're previewing our NFL divisions. We did so far the AFC East, or no, NFC the NFC South and the AFC South. Those are the two we've
You good?
done this week.
Doing okay?
Yeah. This week we're doing
This is
NFC
why
North.
BJ needs naps. This is why
Yeah.
it's important for you to get a nap.
Dude, I laid down for a nap too before the podcast and I just couldn't fall asleep. So this is what you get. But we're doing NFC North
Oh, is this why
today.
is that why you wanted to start later? Is that why you wanted to start later?
No. Because I had to fill out all these fucking forms for my son, so that was why. But doesn't matter. We're here now. We're awake. We're feeling it. But
We're
before
awake.
that's the lowest bar I can say. Before we get into the NFC North, let's talk about what's been going on in the news.
Shit.
Outside. Well, let's first talk about what's going on outside of the NFL, and then we'll just do NFL straight through. So, Casino, have you heard or seen about what is going on with James Harden?
I've heard about it in passing. Again, I've had so much going on with trying to prep the wife getting put in the hospital for a while that, yeah, no, I've heard about it. I know that he's like basically calling out the guy that's helped him from fucking ever. And while he's doing this while he's in China and just like, yeah, I'm James. He's being James Harden, man. He's just being James Harden. What else is there to fucking say? So if you want to elaborate on this, because I'm curious to know more about it. I've heard it multiple times now in passing. So
It is just insane to me that like the Sixers cannot have one regular offseason. There's always fucking something. It's always dumb shit. It's
Philly,
always
man.
like Ugh. But like the Eagles, they've been my entire life. I've been a fan since I was 9 years old, so 1999. The entire time they had like the T.O. Donovan McNabb issue. And then we were good for a couple years. And then it was the Chip Kelly stuff. And then it was the Wentz stuff. And I guess you're right. I was going to say the Eagles haven't been bad, but then in terms of controversy and stories, there's been a lot. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is just the fucking Philadelphia water. I don't know what it is, but I will say I'm ride or die Eagles for life. The Las Vegas gets a NBA expansion team. I'm fucking off the Sixers. I'm done. I'm done with them.
All right.
I can't deal with them. It's just insanely frustrating. And it's also the thing that I keep seeing with the Harden thing is obviously Harden keeps doing this dumb shit. And it is always, you know, for some reason, it's like that thing we've said on the podcast a million times. Well, that I've said a million times when you run into 50 assholes in a day, you're the asshole. Like it's kind of that thing where it's like,
I've You've said that 50 million times on this podcast. Either I'm not paying attention to you, which I mean, it could probably true, or
yeah,
you've never said that in before on this podcast.
no, the thing where you wake up and the guy who cut you off is an asshole, and then you go into work and your coworker's an asshole,
Okay,
and
you
then the
said that maybe
customer's an
like
asshole.
twice, and that was like last week.
I mean, well, that's true. And this is the new season. So I haven't said it this time in this season, but it pertains to James Harden, where he goes to every franchise, and every franchise is like, they're not treating me right. They're not doing what I want, like blah, blah, blah. And then he just like works his way out of it. And then it's just like always, it's like the Kyrie thing, where it's like, really, every single team you go to is the issue. It's never you at all. It's always the team. It's like, get the fuck out of here. But the thing with this one that is interesting is it's it kind of has there's something here that's missing from the story because all the teammates of James Harden on the Sixers are kind of backing him and showing support to him over Daryl Morey. So there might be something here. And then there was also a report that Joel Embiid has removed the word processing and his location as Philadelphia from his social media. So now he's pissed about the whole thing. And now James Harden, apparently he's like this because he was trying to force a trade to the Clippers, but the Clippers weren't going to give anything worthy in return. So now it's like this weird. And then Wojnarowski reported that James Harden's goal now is to make the Sixers so uncomfortable that they just decide they cannot bring him back to training camp and trade him. So when again, the NBA is one of those leagues where if you don't want to play for the team, you're not playing for the team. Like there's just nothing, like there's no, we've talked about this before. There's no like accountability or anything. All the contracts mean fucking nothing because you can literally just be like, I don't want to play here. And then it's kind of just like, okay, well, you signed a contract, and then it's like, yeah, but I'm not going to play. And so then it's either you let your best player or one of your best players sit on the bench and lose value, or you just try to strike while the iron's hot and get as much value for an asset that's basically like, we're not playing. I'm not playing for your team. So, what do you think the end of this is, Casino? Just from what I've told you, do you think he is James Harden next game suiting up for the Sixers or for one of the other NBA teams?
It's got to be for one of the other NBA teams. So you have players that demand trades and whatnot, but then they're, let's just say, too backboneless where they will not follow through with their threats. They're just empty threats. But I guess James Harden just seems like the guy that he's gonna be like, yeah, I'm not gonna play, and he's just not gonna play. Even if they're like, yeah, go in, and he's just gonna be sitting on the bench. He's like, yeah, and I told you I'm not playing. I'm not gonna stand up. I'm not gonna get on the court. Like he's not gonna play with this team again. I would I would put money down, not BJ money, but casino money. I'd put money down that he's not gonna be playing for the Sixers, whether he's still contracted on the Sixers, he's not gonna play for the Sixers. He won't go out on that court and play. He just won't.
Yeah.
And then
Uh,
I don't know
apparent
if you said the Joel Embiid thing. I don't know if, if he's there or not. That if definitely if he goes, Harden's gone too. So
Yeah, um I do think the kind of outlier issue of this is it becomes a much and why it's like, oh, you should just trade him. I think it now becomes a thing of like, you should definitely trade him because I feel like this becomes one of those things where the longer James Harden is there, the longer he's kind of pitting the organization against the players. And you kind of don't want that like cancer in the locker room spreading because now it's already kind of started to infect. You saw like PJ Tucker. I know he's no longer on the team, but he used to be, and he issued support for Harden. You've seen obviously Embiid kind of have, I mean, he's always a troll online, so you can never really take what he does online seriously. But it is one of those things where I feel like you need to like cut the head off the snake and kind of just be like, Harden, we're sending you to, you love Houston so much, fucking go back to Houston, take picks and fucking a couple role player guys and just kind of clear the air and be like, we're building around Embiid and then just Embiid and Maxi go from there. And it just is also one of those things where, as a Sixers fan, I don't feel like Harden gives us the best chance to win in the playoffs, which every year is, you see the Heat kind of just coast through the regular season. Then when it gets to the playoffs, they turn a switch. And it's kind of the opposite with the Sixers, where they have great regular seasons and Embiid lights it up, and then all of a sudden they turn off the switch when they get to the playoffs, and it's just what we see every year. So I do think just get rid of him. The stupid thing he did where he's like in China and he's just like, oh, the guy lied to me because apparently he said he was going to bring me back, but now they're trying to trade me. But now I do want to get traded. So it's just a giant mess. Perfect for a Sixers offseason, which always happens. Casino, you're on mute. And
sorry, kid was screaming. So just a shit show as per usual with him. So
yeah, great. And I mean, he had one good playoff or two good playoff games this past season. So I think he's already past his prime, but that doesn't mean he can't still contribute. I just don't think he could be the number 2 guy on a team. I think as a number 3 guy, he's insanely valuable, but whatever. Now to move from one shit show team to another shit show team, Casino. Let's talk about your Patriots.
uh
This is isn't it funny how we do this podcast? I'm a Philadelphia sports fan. You're a Boston sports fan, and for some reason, those two cities always just have stories linked to each other in terms of
yeah.
happening within the same time frame. So, and this one goes even deeper because the Eagles are my team and their rival is the Cowboys. And now your team, the New England Patriots, have signed former great, I'll add another formerly great Dallas running back in Ezekiel
When
Elliott
you're
to the
only good for like
Patriots.
2 years, does that consider you a great? I don't think so. Okay.
But thoughts on your team signing Ezekiel Elliott to a 1 year, I believe it
It's
was a 1 year, how much?
so 6 all in all if you could get to it, but it's like 3 and then leftovers
So
with incentives. Sorry.
thoughts
Good.
on your team signing Ezekiel Elliott to basically approve it 1 year deal.
Um, it's so I don't mind this because I feel I don't like Zeke as a person. I think he's kind of a jackass. But so yeah, what it was a $1 million signing bonus. And yeah, so it's a 600 million or yeah, 6 million contract with and I still can't see this stupid 300 or the 3 million thing, whatever. Um, he's gonna be good for the role playing that he's gonna do. He's not gonna be the number one back. Our number one back is still gonna be Ramondre Stevenson, which so stoked for that. Um, but Zeke, he's gonna be that situational guy. He's gonna be goal line. He's gonna be the 3rd and 1, the 4th and 1. You know, we need just a power runner to go right up the middle and get us that 1 extra yard. Um, I really hope that this calms Zeke down a little bit. Belichick, he's good at calming players down, and the ones that he wasn't able to calm down, he wasn't the one bringing those players in. That was like Brady bringing people in, or an offensive coordinator guy, blah blah blah, or going up to the crafts. Belichick, if he's gonna try to get this guy on the team, he's bringing Zeke in. You know that he's gonna be like, "Okay, this is how we run our shit. You're gonna stop with the theatrics. You can do your little, like, woo, when you get a touchdown, whatever, feed me bullshit, fine. But you're not the number 1 running back. You're coming in as a specialist. You're lucky that we picked you up because you weren't gonna get any goddamn time in Dallas because you have Pollard, and then I forget the rookie that, was showing promise. He's gonna surpass him. So Zeke he was done. He was done in Dallas. So he should be kind of excited and happy that he's going to a team that is really focused on the run. Um, and yeah, I think it's a good pickup. It's not the pickup I wanted. I wanted Dalvin Cook, which we'll talk about here in a second. I wanted Jonathan Taylor, but whatever. We got Zeke. That's fine. So I don't hate it, but I don't fucking love it. It's gonna be tough watching this fucker play.
I mean, over or under
There we go.
how many times you get to see the eating uh his celebration, and will you cheer for it, because it usually only comes after touchdowns?
Um, I don't know. I'm gonna have trouble with this. I will really have trouble with this. Um, I yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have trouble with this. Let's just say that.
So I do think this is a good pickup from a standpoint of, obviously, like you said, and we talked about prior to the show, he'd be a good goal line back, kind of like a LeGarrette Blunt, like usage. LeGarrette Blunt, obviously, in his later years, was more or less just a short down back. And you already have Stevenson as your, first through third down back, or first, second, all purpose back. And then you have Ezekiel to kind of come in and get the scraps. But I like this move for the Patriots until, like you said, you look at the other options that were also out there, where
Yeah,
it's like you look at Dalvin Cook, who like you said, we'll talk about in the second, signing with the Jets. But then you also had Jonathan Taylor from the Colts. You probably could have got for, obviously it'd be more expensive, but on the Patriots right now, we've talked about, and we'll talk about them more when we preview them, but we've talked about how they really don't have any playmakers. So if you want to be old school, you know, uh, old school Patriots, why wouldn't you just have a two down back system, take the pressure off Mac Jones, and then kind of just run it down people's throats? But
that's
it's
really
like,
I thought was gonna be the case, to be honest.
yeah. So you also had, and this was the page I was looking for, you also had the other running backs that were out there. Obviously, Dalvin Cook was still out there before he signed with the Jets after the fact. You had Zeke, you had Fournette, and then you had Kareem Hunt. So it's like, I don't know if Zeke is better than those guys, but I also feel like maybe only Fournette is the one we've kind of seen fall off a cliff. But I think second and pretty close to Fournette on that list is Zeke in terms of falling off a cliff. I mean, he looked like a shell of himself the past, what, season and a half? Like
God,
he,
2.5 seasons, in my opinion.
yeah, and he got completely overshadowed by Tony Pollard, and it just becomes one of those things where it's, yeah, you're getting him on a cheap kind of, you know, come in and prove yourself deal. But with Cook out there, Cook's still in his prime. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor probably hasn't even hit his prime yet. So it just seems like a
Right.
weird. And then obviously you don't go after Hopkins. You don't go after OBJ. Again, they're more expensive, but who else do you have at those positions? You have Devontae
Right, but you
Parker,
know what?
who's the worst at
That's going
every
off
stat.
of yeah. Hi, kid. Uh, Going off of what Belichick does. He doesn't bring offensive guys. He's a defensive coach for a reason. Okay, hi. You can. There you go. He's a defensive coach. He doesn't like bringing in offensive players. You know, our who's our number one wide receiver? I don't know. Again, Devontae Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, who are we looking at? Kendrick Bourne. Who's the number one receiver? We don't have a true one, in my opinion. We got some decent running game, and that's what we focused on pretty much since McDaniels has left. It's been pretty much just a running game, especially since Brady's left. But that's going back to old Patriot football, which was a running focused team. So, but you're trying to put together a running team in a league where, as we've talked about many times, that it's not a running back league anymore. It's a wide receiver. It's a dual threat quarterback. You know, what do these running backs come into play? So my fingers are crossed that a lot of teams are set to stop wide receiving and stop, dual quarterbacks, but not really prepared well enough to stop the running back game. That's my only hope for the Patriots this year, because as we can move on to the next topic, which is Dalvin Cook going to the goddamn Jets. This team is absolutely loaded now,
Yeah.
especially with Bryce Hall coming back for them, and he's supposedly
Brees.
feeling better.
Brees.
Oh, Brees. That's what did I say? Bryce? Yeah, I said
You
Bryce.
said Bryce.
Sorry, I had a friend from by the bar last name named Bryce, so it's fresh on the mind. So Brees Hall, uh, and so he's good, but you bring in Dalvin Cook, so you're like, okay, take your time, still, kid, get recovered. You know, we'll start like getting you back into the game because obviously you're good. You showed us what you could do, and sadly you got hurt. So we're gonna ease you back in. And while we do that, we got this super stud and Cook coming in to take the front load of the carries for you. So I think they're gonna look phenomenal. I'm really worried about the Jets this year. They keep getting better, and what we've talked about is we don't like Rodgers, but him taking pay cuts for this team so they can bring in players like Cook. It's it's scary that they're loading up and they're doing what, the dynasty of the Patriots did, especially for the last 3, their last 3 Super Bowls was they kept cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting their paychecks to get other players in there and to keep other
Yep.
players. That it worries me this is what the Jets are doing, and I do not want them to do well. I don't want to cheer for the Chiefs. I don't. I don't want there to be another dynasty side of the Patriots, and the Chiefs are coming dangerously fucking close to that. Um, that I still might cheer for the Chiefs over the Jets because I just hate Aaron Rodgers more than I want more than I want the Chiefs to lose. So,
As an Eagles fan, fuck the Chiefs. I hope they never get to another Super Bowl with Mahomes, but we'll
so
get to
would you?
them.
Okay, let me. Would you rather? It comes down to an AFC Championship game. Would you rather the Jets win or the Chiefs win?
Jets, 100%.
You'd be okay
Literally
with Rodgers going
100%.
to the Super Bowl. You'd be okay with Rodgers going to the Super Bowl, possibly winning a Super Bowl.
More than Mahomes winning his third? Yeah. Yeah, I would. I'm tired. We'll get to it when we talk about the
You've
AFC
got the
West.
Chiefs fatigue.
I already have Chiefs fatigue. Did you see the fucking thing where obviously ESPN and NFL, when they post shit on social media, it's always the fucking worst. Did you literally see the Chiefs backup quarterback made this like unbelievable play in the preseason game? And ESPN was like, look at Mahomes' reaction to this play. And then everybody in the comments was like, you're hyping up Mahomes being excited about a great play instead of the great
Okay,
play.
yeah.
Like, it's just fucking ugh. It's just one of those things where we've already, and again, this is
I'll be
with LeBron.
honest, I totally agree with that. I don't care when they show players' reactions to great plays, except for, like, when it was, like, a big moment. The last one I actually cared about was when Tom Brady got excited about, Butler getting the interception on the Seahawks, and he's, like, jumping up and down like a
Yeah,
little girl. I
but
liked
that was
that one. That
significant.
one
This
because
was
it
a
was a game.
preseason game.
Yeah.
Like, that was the Super Bowl. This is the first week of preseason. Like, and we need, and ESPN needs to be like, Mahomes. Oh my, did you see him being excited about his teammate? Like, and it's just like, why are you mentioning his teammate at all? I still don't know what the teammate's name was because he wasn't mentioned in his own fucking clip. So I'm already done, or I've been done with the Chiefs, especially after they beat my Eagles. Call it sour grapes. Why wouldn't I be? Like, I would just be like, oh, congrats to the Chiefs for beating my team in the most important game of the year. Like, no, fuck that. Like, and especially how they did it. We don't have to get into it again. We can, you can go back and listen to me rant about it for the Super Bowl. But I think, in terms of talking about the Jets, and we'll hold till Casino gets back, or I mean, we'll keep talking till Casino gets back. But I think the oh, and he's back. I was just gonna say, I think the craziest thing about Aaron Rodgers to the Jets so far is that he's made Zach Wilson actually look good. Like, he's had
Right?
two pretty damn good preseason games where he's like looks like an actual NFL quarterback, and you can tell Aaron Rodgers, like, and Zach Wilson even says it, like, oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers is always like telling me like to do this, do that, like suggesting plays, like do it. So he's
Well,
clearly
yeah.
being like, Rodgers is the one helping me be better, which is
Well,
fucking crazy.
and Rodgers is not known for doing that. Rodgers is not
That's why it's
known for.
crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I think, I mean, I could be wrong here, but I think that Rodgers is doing that because he also wants Zach Wilson to help him with his off-field performance.
He's like, listen, you let me throw a touchdown pass in a preseason game, and I'll show you the hottest MILFs in New York City. And I'll introduce you to my friends. All their moms are hot. Like, you can come along with me. We can do the old Jets two for one, the jumbo jet,
Two
and just
jumbo jet.
but uh my and we will talk about the AFC more when we preview the AFC East, but we're not talking about the AFC East today, Casino. We're talking about the NFC North. Are you ready to dive into it?
Yeah, let's see how much I can get down before this child grabs me again and wants me to go do something.
Let's talk
Oh,
about,
she
because
just
it's,
slammed her. She ran into her room and slammed her door.
I mean, you're golden now, but
Oh yeah, she can play with all
uh
of her toys.
let's talk about the former team of one Aaron Rodgers, the Packers, for the first time in over 20 years, not having a Hall of Fame quarterback. Potentially, we don't know about Jordan Love yet, but potentially not having a Hall of Fame quarterback for the first time in over 20 years.
Yeah,
This year,
since it goes all the way back since when they
nine. I want to say Favre's first year was 90,
won.
91. I was going to say 92, 91, 92. But
Yeah, it's 90 ninety
last
one first season.
last year with the Aaron Rodgers led Packers, they went 8-9 and finished behind the Vikings and Lions in their in the NFC North. This year, however, they have the 14th easiest strength of schedule. Last year, their total offense was 14th, pass offense was 17th, rush was 15th, scoring was 17th. Their defense, on the other hand, in total was 17th, 6 against the pass, 26 against the rush, and 17th in scoring. So, Casino, the obvious question when it comes to the Packers this year is, do you believe in Jordan Love?
I don't. I I don't, but I need to see more. I could be totally wrong. I'm not gonna like be like, oh yes, no, I am 100% right on this. I don't think that he's gonna be good enough for it. Uh, what's your take? Well, I'm trying to.
So, I mean, the crazy thing is you look at the free agent signings versus the free agent losses when it comes to the Packers, and they lost far more than they gained, and they didn't really even replace anybody that they lost. They lost both tight ends last year, Tunyon and Mercedes Lewis. They lost Cobb, who was kind of a shell of himself, but still a valuable situational wide receiver. I want to say like a wide receiver 4 who can come in and catch passes when you need him to catch them, which is all you can basically hope for. But then they lost their safety Amos, 2 defensive linemen, and then obviously Alan Lazar went to the Jets to reunite with Rodgers. They signed 2 safeties and a long snapper, so they in free agency they really didn't do much. They got the great edge rusher Lucas Van Ness from Iowa in the first round, and then they got 2 tight ends in the draft and a wide receiver. Uh, Jaden Reed from Michigan State. So again, it just is one of those things where when you look at the stats for the Packers from last season, I think you more have to focus on what this defense is going to be in terms of trying to instead of trying to replace Aaron Rodgers, because obviously that's not going to happen. But this is a quarterback driven league, and Love did come in last year against the Eagles, and he showed kind of flashes of, some stuff where you were like, oh, okay. But it's also one of those things where I don't trust backup quarterbacks when they come into games that they weren't originally starting, because then it's like there's no game plan for him. Obviously, Love is a much different quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. He looks like much more of a scrambler and kind of evades the pocket. I know Rodgers would do that, but he Rodgers would evade the pocket to set up the pass. Love looks like more of a getting out of the pocket so I can run it in case my guy's not like my first read isn't open. So I don't know, Casino. I think when it comes to the Packers, I think everybody's so focused on Love, where when you look at this defense, they kind of were mediocre last year. And again, they finished with a losing record, and they really didn't do anything except add one edge rusher to make this
Mm,
defense any better, but they lost a
I
bunch
mean,
of
so that's
people.
all true, but do you think that players had Aaron Rodgers fatigue where they were ready to get him out of there and now they feel a little more revitalized to actually show up and play for the team and, you know, this focus of Aaron Rodgers is out, this cancer of Aaron Rodgers is out. Obviously, he's trying to be all a buddy over in the Jets, but that's just who's to say by like mid-season if they're not having the best season, he's not going to do the same thing he did over in Wisconsin. Um, so
Yeah,
uh, I don't know. wonder if this team. I know it's the same pieces and blah blah blah, but really a lot of the game is also a mental game. Like if you're just not into it and you're not willing to work for it, you're not going to perform well. So I really wonder if they maybe had Aaron Rodgers fatigue and they were, once he's out now, they're like,
but
okay,
see, I
g- go for it.
Well, I feel like the rookies were the ones that were like, "Oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers is a dick," because you heard all the stuff obviously last year with Christian Watson, and where Aaron Rodgers just basically ignored him for a couple games because he dropped a big pass, and then he obviously caught on at the end of the season and all that kind of stuff. But Rodgers is one of those guys where I know we don't like him, but his former teammates literally talk about the guy like he walks on water. Like you never hear anybody say anything bad about Aaron Rodgers as a former teammate of his. Even the rookies who he was doing that to were always like, "Oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that." It was never like And again, it's the quarterback, but we've seen players call out their quarterbacks or like not specifically just put the blame on themselves and kind of,
Well,
you know,
I mean, okay, sure. You're not wrong there, but also Rodgers is just a pro expert, top tier manipulator. So I'm wondering how much of it is, they mean these things, or it's just he's silver tongued it into their freaking mind, and they're like, oh yeah, he's a good guy. He likes doing ayahuasca or whatever it's called. He's pretty
ayahuasca.
hip. There it is. He's hip. He's cool. And then the veterans are like, yeah, he took us to a Super Bowl. Let me grab my cane out, and it's just like, yeah, fuck off. I don't know. I
your
will never
hatred
defend
for
Aaron Rodgers.
your
I hate him
hatred for Aaron
so.
Rodgers, it's palpable.
I
It's
I,
so good.
I
And
hate
then
him so much.
well, also when he came
Uh,
to the Jets with that silver tongue, maybe that was what Zach Wilson was like. We can get use out of that. Let me show you. let, me, let me show you rounds. But
I'm so glad football's back and we could talk about Zach Wilson. It's so great.
but
We could do an entire series just on Zach Wilson and his off-field antics. It's great.
but the I would love that.
Different kind of show, but still
Yeah.
good show.
That'd be the only sports podcast after dark. That's a good companion pod to this one. But my question to you, Casino, and this division is very interesting because they are all very close in projected win totals. So the line right now for the Packers is 7.5. You going over under for 7.5?
Man, I think it's a push. I think that's right about where they'll be. Hmm.
At 7
Hmm.
or 8?
7. I'll call it a
See,
7.
I literally wrote down 7. I think this feels like a 7-win team. I don't see, unless Love just comes in and is just like incredible, and everybody's like, oh my God, where has this guy been? And then it's just, you know, uh, something nobody was expecting. But I think right now at the moment, I would maybe have them as I think I even like the Bears more than them. I think I would have them fighting
I
much
have
more
the
realistic.
Bears. I have the Bears above them.
Yeah, I just think they are much more likely to be fighting to stay out of last place in the division than to fight for first. That just seems, yeah, because this same team that has only gotten worse last year went 8-9 with Aaron Rodgers. So without him, all of a sudden everybody's like, "Oh yeah, they're going to be a 10-11 win team." Like how? They haven't improved anywhere. They have a bunch of rookies and we've already seen just from NFL history that there's very few rookies that come in and just make immediate impacts for teams that results in wins, right? It's always just like even great ones like Mika Parsons or whatever. Like, yeah, he's great now and he was great his rookie year, but when he came in his rookie year, he was like affecting the game, but he wasn't the difference between winning and losing. So,
Can we just go through one episode in football and not talk about Mika Parsons, please?
no,
I'm gonna hear
because
his
he's the
name way too
best.
much.
We're going to talk every episode about Aaron Rodgers, Mika Parsons, Patrick Mahomes, every overcovered annoying person in football. We're going to talk about Casino every
All
episode.
right.
How we get the clicks. But let's move on to the longtime rival of the Packers, and that is the Chicago Bears.
The
Last year,
Bears.
last year they finished 3-14. They have this year the sixth easiest strength of schedule, and then in the offseason they traded their first round overall pick. They got DJ Moore and a bunch of other picks. But let's talk about, so last year their total offense was 23rd, 32nd ranked in passing, first in rushing, and 32nd in scoring. However, their defense much worse, 32nd in the league in total defense, 18th against the pass, 31st against the run, and then 32nd in scoring. So with all that said, Casino, how do you feel about the Bears going into this season?
Um, I think they're gonna be right there missing the playoffs again, but I do like this team so much more than, um, I did last year. I think oh, man, this is gonna be tough. Yeah, I think this division is, like, really close. I don't know really who to go for, but and my kid agrees. She finds it hysterical. Um, but I really do like Fields, and I really just wanna believe in him. Um, sorry, having a tough time, with getting this
Wrangling
research
this
here.
kid.
Yeah,
Oh, but
but
oh,
both.
yeah. But it is a tale of two different teams when you look at the what the Packers did this offseason and then what the Bears did, because the Packers are kind of just trying to plug and play with what they lost, kind of trying to replenish in the draft and just kind of be like, we lost two tight ends, let's draft two tight ends, and then just kind of replacing pieces they left or that left, but not necessarily improving. Whereas when you look at the Bears, we obviously saw that they were 23rd ranked in total offense, 32nd in total defense. So all they did in the offseason was just get offensive or defensive players, and not even to replace ones they lost because they didn't really lose anybody, just to improve. So they signed Tremaine Edmonds, the linebacker from, I believe, he was from the Bills, right? Yes. So he was from the Bills. He led all off-ball linebackers in coverage last season. They also got TJ Edwards from my Philadelphia Eagles, who was ranked 8th in pass coverage. So they got two great, good to great middle linebackers who are good at coverage. So I feel like that opens up if you're going to be playing a 3-4 defense, right? Where you have two linebackers on the field. They also got Nate Davis. They got edge rusher Rasheem Green. They got running back Deontay Foreman. Defensive interior lineman Demarcus Walker. They got Robert Tunyon, who we just talked about, left the Packers. And then they got another defensive inside tackle in Andrew Billings. But then in the draft, they obviously, the biggest move they made in the draft was trading for DJ Moore to get out of that first round pick from with Carolina. And then they got a tackle, they got another defensive tackle, they got a cornerback, another defensive tackle, and then I kind of feel like fourth round on is kind of ones where it's just like either these guys are hit or they never see the field, right? So you can't really judge them like, oh, they got a great. I never really believed in that. It really only is the first three rounds, and then you see if you can get some diamonds in the rough after that. No disrespect to fourth rounders or beyond, but that's just kind of what happens. But excuse me, I do think, unlike the Packers, where I felt like most of their season kind of depended on how their defense shook out, I kind of feel like the Bears, it's the opposite, where it feels like this team lives or dies by Justin Field, because last year he was their offense, right? They're with the number one rushing team basically because of him and because he would have 3 or 4 amazing plays in a game. I mean, he had one against the Eagles last year where it's like the Bears aren't good, but you're scared of Justin Fields, where at any minute he can just break a 80-yard run that looks like he's faster than everyone on the field, because he probably is. And then now we even saw it in the in the preseason game they just played, where he had an insane stat line, but it was literally just from screen passes. So I believe, oh, let me pull that one up. I should have had it
Sorry.
pulled up.
I had to step away there. The kid had one of the dogs cornered at the windowsill, and the dog wasn't having it today. So I was making sure that nothing went down.
But so speaking of the last preseason game between the Titans and the Bears, Justin Fields 3 for 3, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. And
Yeah,
again, on paper, that's an insane stat line. But when you watch the game, it was literally just like nothing but screens. and the one to DJ Moore was like a 70-yard screen pass that he just took to the house for a touchdown.
Well,
So the
if it
stat
works, it's gonna work.
well, yeah, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you can open up the pass game where you have, obviously two great, I would dare say they have maybe the most underrated wide receiving group in the league. Like when it comes to the Packers, we were just looking at, it's like tight ends are both rookies. They have Christian Watson, and then it's kind of like who else is going to step up. For the Bears, they have DJ Moore. They have Daryl Mooney and Chase Claypool, who I think we've seen flashes of. I don't think Chase Claypool maybe fit this team as well as some were thinking he would, but I still think we've seen him be good. So maybe he just needed an offseason with the team. So right there's three great, I would say they're good, potentially great wide receivers. And then their tight ends, they had Cole Kmet, Robert Tunyon, and Mercedes Lewis. I feel like all three of those guys could be starters on most teams in the league because tight end is one of those positions where I feel like there's very, very few good ones. And then there's kind of just everybody else. And these feel like three guys who, yeah, could potentially be starters on every team in the league. That's not, the Chiefs, the Ravens, name your favorite tight ends. But yeah, I just think,
Yours.
yeah, I think Goddard is probably a top 3 tight end in the league, but
No,
yeah,
no,
I just
I
like
got nothing from that.
what?
You said name your favorite tight ends. I said yours.
Oh. I thought you were talking team. Casino, save that for Only Sports Podcast After Dark. All right? This is the family
Sorry,
podcast.
I'm
That's
getting wild.
the one where we unleash. Yeah. But so when it comes to Chicago Casino this season specifically, do you think how do you think Justin Fields will fare and what you've seen from him and what the team has put around him
Ah,
this
man, I
offseason?
if the rest of the team has to play catch up to him. I think this is like another um Lawrence situation where the quarterback is on another level than the entire team, and the team is struggling to catch up. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that he's gonna have another really good year personally. But again, I probably have him at about 8 wins this year, just above Green Bay. Um, and that's where I'm gonna put. I think they're gonna go somewhere around that 8 and 9 mark, um, just shy of the playoffs. But I'm hoping they can make the playoffs. I do like Fields. I like what he's doing. Just kind of like with the Jaguars, I want Trevor Lawrence to succeed because I think he's a great quarterback. I want Justin Fields to succeed. I think he's a good quarterback. They're just put in bad situations, and the rest of the team has to play catch up. The organization has to play catch up. Um, so that's where I'm at. I think they're going to be good, and it's going to be that thing where there's going to be still a lot of close games, but I think they win a few more of those close games this year than they did last year. But they're going to be right in the mix like they were last year in game to game, all riding off of Justin Fields.
Yeah. Their over under this year is 7.5.
And I'm going 8. I'm going the half the game up.
I feel like I am too. I feel like this definitely feels like more of a 8-9 win team than the Packers feel like this year. And the Packers were 8-9 last year. Obviously, they had Aaron Rodgers, so that's a world of difference. But when it comes to love versus field debate, I feel like the debate gets smaller because we've seen obviously a bigger sample size from Justin Fields, but we've also seen Justin Fields in even limited play. Like there's something there, right? He kind of feels like what Hurts was in Philadelphia, where it's just like there's sparks and there's something here. All he has to do is put it together. And then obviously we saw what Hurts did when he put it together last year. What is stopping the Bears from having that kind of same turnaround that the Eagles did, where it's like they signed all these free agents who weren't the biggest names in free agency, but they were really good guys at a good price. And you didn't feel like you didn't see any of the Bears signings to be like, oh my God, they gave that guy that. It was kind of just like, oh, like good for the Bears to get this guy, this guy. They kind of got the free agents that help teams win, not like the big flashy names, right? So it feels like
Right.
I still feel like they're
They got
one,
reliable pieces, you know, they got
yeah, our
they got the
upgrade.
Mario out of Mario Kart, you know, just that all-around player. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I
that's a
finally watched
great
the
point.
Mario movie, and it was actually pretty good.
It looks pretty good.
I actually
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
But I do think the Bears are maybe 1 year away from being legit contenders. Kind of, they feel like to me what the Lions were last year, were a team that kind of sneaks up on some people, and maybe by the end of the year, they're all of a sudden competing at the highest level, and you're like, oh man, the Bears, and then it kind of gives that momentum to next year. But I would be with
Great
you.
transition. Great transition. We're gonna move over to the Lions now. I wanna talk
Bam.
about them next. Because going right off you said where, you know, the Bears could be the sneaky team. This is, I think, the first sneaky of this season. The first sneaky team, um, next year, where I think this is Detroit's last big, okay, you know, we've tried to go from, like, flat to an actual good contender now, because peop and they're gonna have to show it this year, because last year they were the sneaky team that everybody was like, "Holy shit, where do they come from?" You know, they're actually pretty good. Don't sleep on them. But now everybody's paying attention to them. Everybody's like, "Okay, this team got better. They shocked us all last year. We're gonna pay attention to them, and now I really wanna see what Goff can do with having the spotlight on him. I wanna see what this defense can do, see if they've gotten any better and if they can put things together, this year. Um, if I'm not wrong, didn't they got Brian Flores, right? Now as their
Yes.
defensive coach? Yeah.
Or no, no, no.
So,
Brian Flores signed with the Vikings. Close.
Vikings, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus,
No.
dog,
So for
I knew we went to this division.
yeah. So for this Lions team, last year they were 9-8. This year they are projected at 9.5 wins. Oh, and Casito's walking away. So I'll ask him that question when he gets back. This year they have the 11th easiest strength of schedule. Last year, shockingly, they were in total offense, they were fifth, pass offense sixth, rush offense 11th, and 29th in scoring offense. But in terms of defense, that's where the issues were. They were 29th in total defense, 30th against the pass, 29th against the run, and 29th when it comes to scoring. So, Casino,
Yeah.
with this Lions team, this year they have the 11th easiest strength of schedule, and the line for them is 9.5. Are you going over under 9.5 for this Lions team?
Um, the Lions team, I'm going to go under. You said it was 9.5?
Yes.
I'm gonna say they're 9-8.
Yeah. And do
Um,
you think that wins them the
we're
division?
no, I think the Vikings aren't gonna end up winning the division and probably at like 10.
Hmm.
So, like, again, we said right before we got into this this group of guys, or this group of teams, is they're gonna be really close. I think this is gonna be a very close race in this division. Um, and I think that's where we're gonna sit, somewhere around where they're all separated by 4 games, but like each team separated by a game.
Yeah, I agree. This feels very much like a kind of a slightly better version of the NFC South was last year, right? Where
Mhm.
every team is kind of within a half game of each other, and it comes down to the last couple weeks of the season to kind of sort itself out.
Yeah,
But
but all these teams are a little better than what that division was, so
yeah, it feels like all of them are going to kind of be around 7, 8, 9 wins to win the division. But in terms of the Lions offseason moves, their big issue last year was they couldn't stop anybody, right? Because they were 29th in total defense, 30th against the run and or against the pass. And then all they did in the offseason was go get Cameron Sutton, was go get Chancey Gardner-Johnson, was go get Emmanuel Mosley, and then they drafted the Alabama running back in the first round, Jamar Gibbs, but then they also drafted Jack Campbell from Iowa in the first round. So it really felt like the Lions were like, okay, we lost our running back, so we need to replace him. We were bad against the pass, so let's just go get a bunch of cornerbacks and safeties and middle linebackers and throw them out there to make the defense better. I really do feel like the Lions and the Vikings I feel like at 9.5 wins, I think I would take the over because I feel like this definitely feels like a 10-win Lion team. Because
That's fair. I'm not gonna knock that at all. I can see that.
yeah, and I feel like both you and I, probably more than anyone I've heard talk about sports, both you and I really like Jared Goff, and I don't understand why people don't like him. He took a team to a Super Bowl. And remember, he had that year they went to the Super Bowl, they had that shootout where he was going toe to toe with Mahomes. Like, and it was that, remember that Monday night game where the Rams and the Chiefs both scored like almost 50 points apiece? Like, I've seen enough of Jared Goff, especially in big games, where I would take him over a Dak Prescott or a Kirk Cousins because I've already seen him lead teams to places Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins never have. Like, why? I don't get why the other guys get praises and excuses and everybody just fucks off on Jared Goff, where it's like he's done what you are defending the other guys for not doing. Like, I don't get, and they were great Rams teams, but again, it was when you put pieces around him. Cousins and Dak Prescott have had better teams than Goff has had and have had nowhere near the level of success. It's just crazy to me that Jared Goff is just kind of like brushed off as like, oh yeah, like let's just trade this guy away. And then yeah, but last year with the Lions, he was 29 touchdowns, 7 INTs, 65 completion percentage, and 4,400 yards. Like, I'll take that any season, like anywhere. Almost 30 touchdowns, 4,500 yards, 65% completion percentage. Like, I don't get the hate that Jared Goff gets. So I think he is at this moment right now, especially with Aaron Rodgers out of the division, I think he's the best quarterback in the conference. I don't know how you can look at his career. I mean, he had the year the Rams went to the Super Bowl, he had 32 touchdowns and again, almost 5,000 yards. Like, do you think that Jared Goff right now is a better quarterback in this division than Kirk Cousins?
Oh, yes.
I do too, and I don't get why
I
people
think so
act
again,
like he
and
isn't.
what we have with Kirk Cousins is just we've talked about a million times. This is why I draft him almost all the time in fantasies. He's just the perfect mediocre quarterback. People compare like he's a category in himself now. Like so when they
Yeah,
like the analysts and whatnot, they'll be like, "Oh, so you got tier 1, you've got the Kirk Cousins, you've got tier 3, you've got like it's really funny. Like he is so consistent that they've made a category after him, which is yeah, he's just another. This is just another Kirk Cousins, capable, competent. He's gonna win you games, but he's not gonna get you and win you a Super Bowl. Like
yeah.
he's a Kirk Cousins. Like that's speaking on that. Like if you were Kirk Cousins, would you like feel good about this, or would you just be like, can you not use me as a category for being mediocre?
Well, it was also funny because in the Vikings preseason game this past weekend where they played the Seahawks, Kirk Cousins in full uniform, wearing his helmet, was standing on the sidelines in a game he knew he was not going to play in. So that to me feels like the most Kirk Cousins move, which is fully suited up in your gear for a game you know you're not playing anything in just because you're there. And then I've started watching some of that NFL quarterback documentary on Netflix. this is nothing against Kirk Cousins. It's more in defense of Jared Goff. Kirk Cousins, I'll tell you what, he should give all the money back to the Netflix people that he made from that, because he comes off as the most likable person, maybe in the history of anything on that show. He's just like this goofy guy who you can tell really gives a shit about football. And you're just like, I don't know how you can root against this guy. And the Vikings are one of those teams where, even though the Eagles and them had a weird thing going on the first year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, where it was like the skull thing, and where Eagles just went into Minnesota and just kind of blew the doors off them. But the Vikings are one of those teams. They're kind of like, I just really want them in my lifetime to win a Super Bowl, because kind of like the Bills, I feel like it would mean so much more to their fans than the Chiefs winning a third Super Bowl, right? Like, it's just one of those teams that I kind of just hope gets it done one of these days. And speaking of the Vikings casino, let's move to them. They finished 11-4 last season, and shockingly, their win total this year is only projected at 8.5. Over or under 8.5?
Over, over. I think
I
they're
think
going to
so
be
too.
right around 10. I think they're going to be. It's either them or Detroit, and I think it's going to be actually a tough one this year for them to just kind of walk away with it.
Yeah, I do feel like they've definitely kind of fallen back, because obviously they lost Dalvin Cook, they lost Adam Thielen, but they still have Justin Jefferson. They still have a defense that last year was not very good, but I feel like all they did was kind of improve on that defense. And then they took Jordan Addison, the first round, the wide receiver from USC. And then they kind of in free agency just got Byron Murphy Jr. And then they got Alexander Mattinson, the running back, the tight end, Josh Oliver, not John Oliver, Josh Oliver. But they did lose some big names in Eric Kendrick, Patrick Peterson, and then obviously the two Cook and Adam Thielen. But I just feel like, and then you obviously mentioned it earlier, they got the new defensive coordinator, Brian Flores from the Steelers. So
Like I said, I knew he went. I knew he went to one of the. I knew he went to that division. I couldn't remember which team.
yeah. So last year, their total offense, they were 7th in the league, 5th in passing, 27th in rushing, and then
Ooh,
28th in scoring,
ooh.
which yeah. But in terms of defense, they were 28th in total defense, 31st against the pass, 20th against the run, and then 28th in scoring as well on
How did they
defense.
do so well?
That's kind of what I'm wondering. But remember, last year they did that thing where they like won. Remember, we did that where we talked about it on the podcast, where in every one score game, if you flip the score, they were literally like the exact opposite record. So they were 13-4, but if you switched one score games, they would have been 4-13. So it was one of those things where they just won every game that was close, and like that had never happened. Remember, they had that crazy comeback against the Bills where they came back from 38 points. So it's just one of those
And
teams
then you
that
had
was
that
kind of
whole goal
just,
line debacle.
yes.
That
So
was
it's
fun.
it was one of those fun teams to watch last year where you're like, how the fuck are you doing this? And then you look back and you're just like, no, seriously, how the fuck did you do this? Like, it's just, and I think I got their scoring offense wrong. No, they were 28th. They were the
No, no.
28th scoring
You were bad.
offense. Like, how? I agree with you where it's just like you look at them on paper, especially from last year, and you're like, I don't understand how this team is 13-4. But then again, then immediately when they got to the playoffs, they got exposed by a very, I think both of us thought, overrated Giants team. So they definitely weren't better than they thought they were. This year, however, they have the 25th easiest strength of schedule, which means what? The hardest schedule in the league. And I really think that's why, for me, they're going to be a 8.5 win team. I think I'm going to go under for them. I feel like they're a 7-8 win team. And I really do feel like it feels like the Lions division to win or lose. And then maybe the Bears and Vikings make it interesting. And I don't know why I just keep seeing this take of like, oh yeah, the Packers, they might surprise some people this year. I would be more than surprised. I would be fucking shocked if the Packers did literally anything this season. So now that we've finished talking about all the teams in the NFC North, how many playoff teams do you think come out of this division, Casino?
I think whoever wins it.
I do as well. I think it's just one team. And what one team are you picking? Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah.
I think the one team I'm picking to come out of this division is the Lions. I do think it will be closer than it maybe looks like on paper, even though on paper it looks like it's going to be pretty close, because 7.5, 9.5, and 8.5 is basically what all the teams are projected to do this year. So I think the Packers kind of fall obviously further than they were last year, even though last year they weren't that good. So I think the Packers are like a 6-7 win team. I think the Bears have potential to be a 7-8 win team, but I still think they're a year away. I have one toe on the Lions bandwagon. I don't think they're going to just be a 13-win team, but I could see the Lions being a 10-win team. And then the Vikings strike me as a 7-8 win team right there with the Bears and Packers. So I'm picking Lions and
It's
nobody
me
else.
too. I'm picking Lions.
All right.
No, I do agree. I call it the last thing you said there. I do agree. I am picking the Lions because I just don't feel like the Vikings can. I don't think the Vikings can do what they did last year, win every close game.
Yeah. Well, you mean the Vikings?
That's what I said, right? No,
No, you said Lions.
yeah, you know what I meant.
But all right. Anything more to say about the NFC North, Casino, before we head out of here?
No, I do not.
All right. We will be back on Friday to talk about the much, much more interesting AFC North. And this is, and then whatever else sports news there will be. Maybe James Harden will be traded. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some videos of Zeke Elliott in a Patriots uniform doing his famous eating meme. That'll be fun.
We'll also pull a little segment about the Little League World Series. At least
Oh yeah,
talk
you want
about
to
it.
give him a shout out right
Well,
now?
yeah, a little shout out to my boys out in Hendo, Vegas. So Henderson, Nevada. Second time Nevada team has made it to you. I just gave you some food. No, no, we're not doing toast. Um, well, I don't have the toast, right? I don't have the old computer out, so I can't make you toast with that shitty toaster. Um, but anyway, yeah, the Henderson boys. It's the second team from Nevada to make it since the last in 2015. So that's awesome that's there. It starts tomorrow. So Little League World Series is always fun to watch. I highly recommend it. A lot of people who will watch it and they've never watched it before are like, wow, these kids are really athletic. These kids are actually like smart. How do they know how to run, a double play and knew where to hit the
Yeah.
cut? Like they're in the Little League World Series for a reason. A lot of those players end up in the pros, which is pretty cool. So yeah, check it out. A lot of fun if you have nothing to do for the next week. Little League World Series. It is an absolute blast. Check it out. That's what
I
I got.
agree. Yeah. Go Henderson. What's their team name? Or is it just Henderson?
It's Henderson. I looked into it. I didn't find like the last time with the Vegas, it was the Mountain Ridge Little League. Um, I've just only found Henderson Little League. I have not found it might just be Henderson Little League. I have not seen anything else.
All right. So go Henderson Little League. We'll obviously talk about that on Friday. what happens with that. But yeah, this has been as well as the AFC North. This has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino. In the background of Casino is his child, the third co-host
Daddy's all done?
of this
Yeah, I am. I'm fine. I'm done.
podcast.
Yes, we can go and play now.
All right, go have fun playing. We'll
Yeah,
see you
Daddy's
Friday.
done. Got it.
Adios, Casino.
Bye.